Hey everybody, my name is Yule. Welcome back to another episode of Comics in Brief, our news and review show. Let's get into it. Next up is the part of the show where I review some comics. First up, we have Captain America number 698, the first part of the Man Out of Time storyline. Captain America was frozen in ice, and when he is thawed out, it's just a few years in the future where America is really super crummy, and there's this president little baby butthead running things. And that's pretty much how Mark Waid seems to see America these days anyway, and it's playing into Captain America. But if you like Chris Samnee's artwork, this is definitely the book for you. Captain America 700 is coming up soon, so I expect some big things. The story won't stay the same forever, but it's a pretty good book. Once again, we get to review my weekly nightmare in Avengers number 680, part 6 of the 16-part weekly series, No Surrender. The Avengers are off in another part of the universe along with the Earth. Some heroes are frozen and can't move, and some are disintegrating when they touch the objects they're trying to reach. We have a bunch of Avengers rejects running things, and today we get to see what Rogue thinks in the comic book. She's been leading the Uncanny Avengers, and when that got canceled, it became part of this storyline, and it's pretty much a filler issue. There is some good battling, and if you enjoy Rogue, this is definitely a really good book. The artwork is again excellent, as it has been throughout most of this series. There's only been a couple of pages that I thought were really rushed, and this one's very good. So, Avengers, I give it a pass at best. Next up we have Marvel 2-in-1 number 3, written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Valerio Schiti. And it looks really, really good. And I really enjoy the story. We've gotten to the point where we're figuring out what happened to Johnny Storm's powers. And we also find out that the Thing is having some problems with his powers too. I really like the addition of the character that was inspecting them, and I really enjoyed the story. It was fun to read, and I recommend it quite a bit. Marvel 2-in-1 has been surprisingly strong, and even though the artist is not the same as the first two issues, it's very good. So, pick up Marvel 2-in-1 because it's one of the best Marvel books going right now. Next up we have Sideways number 1, which is a DC offering for their New Age of Hero line. Last week and This Week in Comics, I suggested that this might be a little bit like a Spider-Man title, and since I read it, I can let you know that it kind of is, because we are following a high school youth who has just gotten his powers. We also get to meet his friends, we get to meet his family, and it felt very welcoming to a new reader, and I really enjoyed it. There wasn't a whole lot of superheroing, and most of that happened in the latter half of the book. Art is beautiful by Kenneth Rocafort, and the writing is pretty engaging also. So I give Sideways number 1 pretty high marks and a thumbs up. I highly recommend people pick that one up. And lastly, we have Kick-Ass number 1 by series creators Mark Miller and John Romita Jr., only this time Kick-Ass is a woman who was a soldier that's returning from Afghanistan, who has found out that her husband has left her and she has no other recourse but to steal from villains. So this book starts off with a story element that I'm really not big on, where we are introduced to a scene and then are shot back into the past a few weeks, a few months, a few years ago. It happens all the time, and I'm really just sick of seeing it, and it really takes me out of wanting to read more of the comic book. John Romita Jr.'s art is excellent as always. He tells a really good, fun action story, And I did enjoy elements of the character when she finds out that her husband has left her and she is finding out in front of her kids as she's being welcomed back home from the war. That's kind of some fun stuff. I just find it funny that a person who's obviously educated and can do some very technical and specific things can't get a good job. But it's kick-ass. If you like violence, this is definitely a book for you. And now, news and comics. Earlier in the week, police were called to remove an intruder from Stan Lee's residence. The intruder was a former bodyguard of Lee's. Stan Lee has been in the news a lot lately. He's 95 and has had some health problems. I'm really pulling for him because right now it just seems like the guy can't catch a break. And next, Marvel announces S.H.I.E.L.D. 5 and 6 to be released. The long-awaited series is going to be coming out in May. A couple episodes ago, I mentioned that Jonathan Hickman was seen at the Marvel Writers Retreat, and now we know that he and returning artist Dustin Weaver are going to be finishing up this long-awaited series. I am really excited, and you should be too. Next up, if you haven't heard, Kitty Pryde and Colossus are going to be getting married. And this May, there is going to be an X-Men wedding special that's going to be coming out. And the big news is that Chris Claremont, the longtime scribe of the X-Men, is coming back to pen a story. So who isn't excited about that? And lastly, Image Comics named Eric Stevenson to the board of directors. These are the people that have founded the company along with Robert Kirkman and now Eric Stevenson, who worked a long time for Extreme Comics way back in the day with Rob Liefeld. He was the publisher for Image the last 10 years. The company in that time has become the #3 comic company behind Marvel and DC. So a round of applause to Eric Stevenson. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into another episode. As always, I'd like to remind people that these were my opinions. I'd love to know what you thought about them or what you thought about these books in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications and like the video. These things help us, and we'll see you next week.